Welcome back to the channel and welcome back to another edition of the SPURS Chat podcast. This evening we are all smiling because Tottenham Hotspur have just beaten West Ham United 2-0 at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. It's been a good day. Spurs are back into the top four. I cannot tell you how happy I am saying that. Spurs are back into the top four. Highly important. Whilst our visitors today, West Ham, are sitting in the relegation zone. The South Stand at the moment, I'm still at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, by the way, and the South Stand are still singing West Ham get battered everywhere they go. On that note, we've got three very special guests to talk about today's game. We've got back with us actor Ricky Norwood. Ricky, how are you this evening?
West Ham get battered everywhere they go. Oh my
Love
God!
it.
Ain't karma lovely, innit? Ain't karma lovely when it comes back and smacks you in the damn face? Well, bloody hell, what a game! It was a bit flat the first half, I felt, but the boys were going for it, and West Ham were there for the taking. Like Kimbo's about to jump onto, you know, it really was like a. You know, it was a West Ham side without any type of threat, really, you know, and they didn't cause us any problems whatsoever. The back three, back five dealt with every problem that came their way, really. Emerson Royale, another splendid, outstanding performance, and another great performance from Davies as well, bro. Like, again, it's another game where I said Davies' name like 14 times. You know, great run. First time he's played wing back for a long time. Great runs, good crosses, good defensive cover as well. He was pretty solid all over, and I've just seen that he's got man of the match today. So, I mean, fantastic. I mean, Conte loves a wing-back to wing-back goal, doesn't he? And that's the way it kicked off today. So, I'm happy for that goal. I'm happy that Sonny got back on the score sheet, and I'm happy it's a big 3 points against West Ham, boy, because I don't know what we would have spoken about if we would have lost that today.
Well, also back with us, best-selling author Kimberly Chambers. Kim, lovely to have you back. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good. Thanks, Chris. Cheers for having me back on, love.
Love it. Well, we're going to get into the football in a minute, Kim. Also with me this evening is channel regular Craig Dearman. Craig, you've done such a fantastic job on Wednesday night for me hosting the show, so thank you so much for that. How are you this evening?
No worries, Chris. It was a pleasure. Yeah, fan-dabby-dozy. Absolutely fantastic. Can't say much more than that. What I mean, you know, if beating Arsenal's good, beating West Ham's nearly as good. Beating Chelsea next week would be even better as well. But, you know, West Ham didn't really offer a threat, as Rick said. It was, I wasn't concerned at all. Once we went 1-0 up, waiting for Craig's apologies for, all right, look, it will come. It will come. I'm sure I'm not the only one that's berated Emerson Royale over the season, but you know, today he was like the second coming of Roberto Carlos. I swear to God, he was brilliant today again. So he was my man of the match rather than Davies. Bit of a tight call, but he was brilliant today again.
Let me just fill Kim in here because Craig comes on here most weeks, as does Ricky. And Craig has absolutely battered Emerson Royale week after week on the channel. Now, I think actually, Craig, we should start with Emerson Royale and we should start with you because he was absolutely immense today, and he has been since Pedro Porro has signed for Spurs.
Yeah, yes, and it just goes to show what a bit of proper competition does. You know, you have to say at the moment he is our first choice right wing back, isn't he? You know, going on Porro's display, and that's all we've got to go on. You've got to play him every week, and you know what a performance again. He was just a bundle of energy up and down the pitch. He was sliding into tackles, doing no look passes. He was sensational again. Absolute credit where it's due. He was brilliant again, and for him to score a goal and you know the two wing backs combined, I'm sure Conte's happy about that. He wanted them exactly where he. You know, they were where he wants them to be, and one setting up the other. That's just fantastic for him. But Emerson, yeah, what a fantastic performance again. Absolutely brilliant. Is that an apology good enough?
I'm not sure that was an apology. Ricky, can you believe that out of Craig's mouth has come the words, Emerson Royale was sensational today? Did you ever think you'd hear that?
Well, I mean, you know what? Credit where credit is due. And you know what? As Tottenham supporters, we don't want to criticise our players. You know what I mean? We want them to be dynamite and top of the game. But we can only say what we see. And especially on a show like this, where opinions and especially quite close to after the game that we've watched, you know, you can only say what you see. And for a long time, I backed Emerson for a long time. You know, especially his first season, I was just like, give him time. He's getting there. We saw some improved performances at the end of last season when he was the only right wing back available. And but then the start of this season, you know, all of the problems that everybody highlighted, the crossing, the overlapping, the running, you know, the attacking play as well as defensive play wasn't there. And it's only right to criticize and say what you see when it ain't there. But what is really kind of refreshing is that Craig, as well as a lot of Tottenham supporters that gave up on Emerson, and I've got to admit that as part of me, there were some performances this year where I was just kind of like, I don't know what this guy's about right now. There's nothing that for me to back right now and kind of say, oh, well, he's done that and that bad, but at least he's doing this right. I couldn't find it. So it took that competition of places. It took that threat of losing his spot. And, you know, we kept hearing reports of Royale kind of saying that he doesn't want to leave. He doesn't want to leave. And, you know, his position was under threat. And his place at the club was under threat. We all heard the rumours it was either going to be him or Doherty. So what he done was, instead of sulk about it, he put his nut down and went to work even harder. And he started to show not only us, the fans, but the club, the manager and his teammates that he can be trusted and he can do a job. And we're seeing improved performances ever since we signed Porro and ever since that Fulham game, really. We've seen, like, week in, week out, improved performances. And you know, it's all right to say that you're wrong. Football will make you wrong more times than it makes you right. Do you know what I mean? Think about all those pundits that have said this, that, and the other over the years, and how many times have they been wrong? You know, so football will do it to you. And I'm just happy that it's a good wrong. I'm happy that Craig and myself and even yourself, Chris, you were talking about right wing backs every single week for I don't know how long. It was the same boring old subject that we had every single week. But this is all we wanted to see from Emerson Royale. We wanted to see the player that he is. We wanted to see the player that he you know, the qualities that he was going to bring to the field and how he was going to adapt to this Conte system and show us what he was about. We knew he was an athlete, but we needed to see performances. And we've seen that week in, week out. And you've seen how not only Craig, but every single Tottenham supporter in the ground today was backing Emerson Royale, was cheering him on, was shouting for him to shoot. Do you know what I mean? And so that's fantastic. I did see one cross, and the cross hit the first man, and I was kind of like, all right, cool. So there's still a bit of work to do, but you can't have it all, can you? Do you know what I mean? But, you know, at least he's had a bit of the turnaround that we've all wanted. We don't want to see him fail. We don't want to, you know what I mean, like sell him back to Barca or just get rid of him for just get rid of him's sake. You know, think about Sonny. When Sonny came, you know, he had the first couple of seasons were a bit bitty. And it took that kind of talk from Pochettino to Sonny to be like, look, son, trust me. Like, you're going to be a big boy. You're going to be a mainstay. You're going to be first name on the sheet, you know, team sheet and stuff like that. And it took that little kind of a conversation between him and Poch for Sonny to then spring into life and be the player that he was. Moussa Dembele is another one. First couple of seasons he was here, I was like, I don't know what this guy's about. He's running around like a headless chicken. He'll run into players and just kind of give the ball away. But then as soon as Poch got hold of him and kind of gave him a proper job and a role and responsibility and some faith, he flew. Do you know what I mean? And that's what we want to see. We don't want our players to be terrible players. We don't want to come on here every week and be negative and slag them off. We want him to have great performances, and it's great that he's had a fantastic performance, and we can all kind of cheer in that and say, well done, Emerson, for getting your nut down, working hard, and showing everybody on the pitch where it matters, performances and what you're about.
Well, Fred writes here, another much better performance when Conte is nowhere near the team. Of course, it is well worth mentioning that Christian Stellini has been in charge of Spurs for 3 matches, whilst Conte has not been in the dugout. And we have won all 3. We will talk about that later. Kim, let's come to you. Let's get your thoughts on today's game, because off air you said West Ham were poor. You were surprised that they didn't give us much more of a game today.
I was. I mean, West Ham's one of them sides that, especially against us, a bit like Chelsea, let's hope they don't next week as well, but especially against us, don't matter how they've been playing all season, they do tend to lift their game and put in a battle and really want it and put in a good performance. Today was one of the poorest West Ham sides I can remember. They didn't look like they had any oomph for it, any fight. I mean, it didn't seem like their cup final for once. They did look to me like, you know, especially like yesterday when the other teams around them are sort of picking up points. They look like to me they're in a proper dogfight, or they're going to be towards the end of this season there. And it was surprising to me, to be honest with you, when the team sheet come out. I mean, you know, I know my football, but like a lot of the players this season, I don't really recognise from like a season or two ago when they had, you know, like the more of a sort of a settled side. I don't know, but I didn't really recognise that many players on their team sheet today, and they just didn't look like they was up for it, Chris. I mean, they never troubled us hardly at all, did they? I mean, Forster didn't have to do much whatsoever. So,
Kim, the most important thing today: Spurs are back into the top 4. How are you feeling about that?
I'm feeling great about it. I mean, the only thing is we need to, you know, we've got to start doing this, putting in these performances week in, week out now. Now we're back in that 4th. It's going to be an hard battle to get there. You know, there's us, there's Newcastle, Liverpool have started to pick up a bit. You can't like, you know, disregard Brighton completely. Fulham are around there. So you've just got to, you know, we can't have another performance like the Leicester game. We've still got like Newcastle away. We've still got to play Liverpool, still got to play United. United are flying. But we've got back in that spot. We've just got to try and go on a bit of a run. You know, other teams are managing. Man United are doing it. Other teams are managing to do it. We just need to sort of go out, a bit of confidence, get a couple of free wins under our belt, and just sort of go on a bit of a run to sort of, you know, obviously I'd like to finish, you know, I'd like to finish top 4 again for, you know, whether Conte is going to be there next season is looking doubtful, but it'd be great for whatever manager to come in to have, you know, that to look forward to again. And hopefully, like next season, we might have a better squad, I think, to compete for the Champions League. You know, we're getting there slowly but surely. But going back to Emerson, yeah, I think he's been immense the last few games. But I'll tell you something, I bet Levy's seething. You know, it's a lot of money to spend just to give him a kick up the backside, isn't it?
Kim, are you surprised where Spurs are in the table right now? Because there's been a lot of negativity about Tottenham, you know, particularly in the last few months, particularly after the January transfer window. A lot of fans saying we didn't do enough. Are you surprised that we're sitting in the top 4 right now?
I am, and I'm surprised, really. We've got a decent chance of going in the last 8 of the Champions League because we've not really played well in anything, Chris. There's not really, I mean, City at home, I thought we played well. There's not a game this season. I mean, for me, the football's been difficult to watch at times. It's not, you know, even today, the first half, it was, I nearly fell asleep, like, you know, it's just been that style of football. But I mean, you know, I'm not wholly blaming Conte for that. Perhaps he's doing, you know, there are some average players there that do need upgrading still. You know, there's some players that perhaps have been there many years now that we need to look at moving on. That's one of our big problems, I think, moving on players. Look at everybody out on loan. We're not going to get the money back. Sometimes you just got to do like what the Gooners done last season and the season before. You've got to wipe your mouth with these big names, you know, get them off your wage bill and try not to make that mistake again. And that's something Levy really needs to look at in the close season, because you can't have all these players dotted about on loan all the time and coming back every summer. No one wants them. Ndombele can't get in the side out there. You know, I don't know about the Celso so much, but sometimes you've just got we have gone through a bad stage with recruitment, you know, apart from like once, you know, a few. And, you know, they've got to look at who's bought them players, who's behind buying them players, who's chosen them players, and really give them the bleeding sack because they've not done a very good job.
Craig, let's come to you. Let's get your thoughts on today's game. Also, I'd like to talk about the Antonio Conte situation, because in the last few days, particularly when we've had the announcement from the club stating that Conte will stay in Italy, there has been a lot of Spurs fans showing negativity towards our head coach. And some are even saying put Stellini in charge. And of course, now he's won 3 out of 3 in the dugout without Conte.
Yeah, and I think it goes back to what we were saying Tuesday, Rick. If you remember, we were saying, do the players feel a bit too much under pressure when Conte's there? Is he barking instructions and telling where to go? Is it always a good thing? So perhaps they just feel a bit more relaxed when he's not there. I wouldn't say it's reached the time where they got to give him the boot and put Stellini in charge. I'm not sure that would do much for Stellini and Conte's relationship if Stellini stayed on, because they're part of a team, aren't they? So I don't subscribe to that theory, but there might be something to be said that Conte, they feel a bit more or too much under pressure when Conte's there. Certainly, Cellini might be more of a calming influence. I don't know, but they've put in 3 good performances when he's been in charge. Absolutely, no doubt about that, Chris.
Now let's come on to talk about Harry Kane, because before the game started, Harry Kane was given an award, of course, becoming Tottenham Hotspur's record goal scorer with 267 goals. There was a fantastic tifo as well before the game started. And also in the house at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium today, Destiny Udogie. I was very lucky enough to bump into him in one of the corridors here at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. Ricky, let's come to you. Let's go through the starting 11. Of course, Heung-min Son was dropped or rotated, no matter how you want to look at it. The starting 11, Forster in goal, the back three of Romero, Dyer and Lenglet. The wing backs today, Ben Davies, Emerson Royale. In the centre of midfield, Højbjerg and Skip. The front three, Kulusevski, Richarlison and Kane. Subs today for Spurs, Austin, Tanganga, Sanchez, Porro, Sarr, Perisic, Danjuma, Lucas and Son. Now, Ricky, Son, dropped, rotated, no matter how you want to look at it, was it the right decision?
Of course it was. Of course it was. The pressure that he's been putting on himself, and he came out with a report this week speaking about, he knows that he's frustrated with his performances as much as the Spurs fans are frustrated with his performances. And it was good that he was on the bench today, because that's going to fire him up, one. Know that his position's a little bit under threat as well, and Richarlison deserved the start as well. We've bought a big £60 million player, and we haven't seen him start. Now, for me, I wasn't too impressed with Richarlison's impact on the game. Let's say I thought he was busy. I thought he was trying to create a bit of chaos, but I didn't really see something that really impressed me today. But what was great was that when Sonny came off the bench, is that he was fired up and determined, and I think we all felt that he was going to score as soon as he came on. Had something to prove, do you know what I mean? And you know what Sonny's like, man. Never doubt Sonny, because he'll always make you look silly. And it was great that when he came on, that the kind of continued pressure, right? So week to week when he's starting and the performances ain't there, or the dribbling ain't there, or the scoring ain't there, and he starts to doubt himself a little bit. Coming off the bench, he's fresh, and he's kind of like, oh, well, I can turn and change this game, and not only change the game, but change the perception of energy around himself and around him within the fan base as well. So it was great. It was a good decision. I think that decision's been almost like long overdue, really, to kind of to give him something to think about and to give him a little kick and a push. So I think that was a good decision, and it's we've seen how much of a good decision it is, because he's come off the bench and he's banged in number 2. Do you know what I mean? And you saw how dangerous he was on the wing again. So fingers crossed. All we want is our Sonny back, the Sonny that we know and love. That's all we want. We're not saying that he's finished. We're not saying everyone has a dip in form. Everybody kind of has these periods of time where it doesn't go your way. But what I've loved about Sonny is that he has never shied away from the responsibility or the work rate, So he's come back in firing. Fantastic. I felt that the same with Perisic. Perisic hasn't had a good couple of games, and he was the only available left wing back. But today we played Davies there, and I thought he played fantastic there. As well as an attacking output, he wasn't rapid, but look, Sessegnon's supposed to be rapid, and we haven't seen him fly down the wing either. So the turn of pace that Davies put in on the left wing, as well as the defensive cover, as well as he's a very kind of reliable player, and he showed that today. So the changes that were made today, I think, were made for the right reasons, and we saw that. Well done. And I know you're talking about Stellini, but let's not forget Ryan Mason, who's been in there and who's part of that first team coach setup and system, and somebody who the players love, respect, and that they kind of want to do well. Like the players want Mason to do well as well. So let's not forget him, who's done a great job as a coach and kind of adapting to a Conte system as well as every other system that he's seen since he's been there.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, Rick. Ryan Mason was given a lot of words today, particularly to Emerson Royale. Fantastic performance from him, as we said. Kim, let's come to you. Between Conte and Stellini, we made 3 changes from the AC Milan game. Davis coming in for Perisic, Højbjerg coming in for Sarr, Richarlison coming in for Son. Were you surprised by those changes today?
Not really. Well, I mean, the Davis one, yeah, I didn't really expect that at the beginning. When I saw Davis was in the side, like playing like wing back, like it wasn't a change that I would have definitely. Well, I wouldn't have thought of it in 100 years, if I'm honest. Skip, no, I thought Skip would come in. But I think the changes did work. I think Davis had an incredible game, as did Emerson. I mean, Sarr, obviously, you could argue that he deserved a start. But by the way, I think Sarr's going to be an immense player. He looks such a composed lad. I think he's going to be a wonderful player in time. I think we've got a real gem on our hands there that in the next couple of years, I think he's just going to blossom. But it's good to see. I thought Skippy had another good game. I thought he did really well again. I mean, them two against Milan, they were absolutely fantastic. I thought, to come in and play both of them, their first sort of Champions League game like that. And, they're 2 young lads. They've not played in that competition before, not started anyway. And I just thought they did so well. They never let Conte down, at all, not one iota.
Craig, let's come to you. Comment on screen now. Should Heung-min Son be used as an impact sub? Because, of course, the last time he was rotated, he scored a hat-trick here at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium against Leicester. He's done it again today.
Yeah, wonderful Korean Son. As Rick said, whenever you doubt him, he just shows you up, doesn't he? I'm not sure he should be used as an impact sub, to be honest with you. I mean, it's obviously an option there, but I think he's too good a player to just use like a Lucas Moura or a Ole Gunnar Solskjaer like United did back in the day. I think what he has to do is play the front 3 that are in form. I know that sounds easy to do, but, last couple of weeks, Son probably they should have dropped him. I think we all know that, and Richarlison should have been given the chance. But, Richarlison didn't really do much today. He didn't do much wrong, but he did, like I say, didn't really see what we know he can do. And we wanted to see that pigeon celebration when he scored, but he just can't seem to get off the mark in the Premiership. So, it'll come. There's plenty of time, but it's good. It's like I said on here before. We've strengthened in a position of strength we had anyway when we bought Richarlison. So when you've got 4 top-notch strikers, and you've just got Lucas Moura coming back today, which we'll probably talk about later. But it's good that we've got some good, really good attacking options going forward there. But coming back to your original question, look, it's an option to bring Son off the bench when, teams have got tiring legs. But I don't think he should be primarily used as an impact substitute because he's just too good for that.
Ricky, what did you make of Richarlison today? Because I've got to admit, I thought it was going to be his day today. And it's funny, I thought there was a sign, because as I was walking to the stadium, there was a pigeon in front of me that wouldn't move. Who could have thought?
Well, do you know what? I really wanted to see the Richarlison from the Brazil side. Do you know what I mean? I really wanted to see that kind of tenacious, that ferocious, that striker that smells goals, as the Brazil manager has often said. And he was busy. He like Craig said there, he didn't do anything terribly wrong, but I don't think he done anything terribly right either. He deserved these chants today, definitely. And I think that, of course, he's been out of a rhythm. So we can give him that. We can give him a little bit of an excuse where he hasn't had too many games in that position playing for us. He's come off the bench when he has. So he hasn't had too many starts in that position. So maybe once he gets up to speed, and maybe we'll get to see the best of him. But today it was just a bit bitty. I honestly, it's like, we've all kind of criticised Sonny's performances over the last couple of weeks, but I didn't see anything too different. You know, when Sonny runs in behind, that will always create some chaos in the opposition's defence. But I don't know. He was about what was good. What I did see about Richarlison's performance was how he would drift into the centre position when Kane was in midfield, or when Kane was deeper and trying to dictate play. He did kind of swing over to the centre position and become that number 9. So seeing his, I think it was these quotes. I think it was this week where he was like, they haven't, basically along the lines of, they haven't seen the best of me yet, the Tottenham crowd, and they, the side haven't seen the best of me yet, and I want to prove to them and everybody else that there's there's a lot more to come. So it's encouraging. This is what the squad's for. This is why Conte wanted two big players in every single position, so that we can chop and change, we can rotate, and if you're off form, then you can drop to the bench because there's somebody that is ready to jump in, and do the job. But what ended up happening today was that Richarlison didn't really take his chance. He didn't really have too many shots or crosses or anything like that. He didn't really take his chance, but it definitely motivated Sonny, because when Sonny came on, he had something to prove. Do you know what I mean? He wanted to stake a claim on his position again, because there's a little bit of doubt this season. So that's what was really good about the whole kind of situation. But there's definitely more to come from Richarlison. I think he can do it. I think he can be that kind of almost like Lamella-esque striker, somebody who kind of goes in there for crazy challenges, winds up the opposition, but then gets in behind and scores brilliant goals. So, but he just hasn't come to fruition as yet. I hope he stays fit for the rest of the season, and I hope we get to see a bit more of him.
Kim, let's come to you. In the last couple of days, Heung-min Son did an interview stating that he watches all the games back, and the Spurs fans are right to criticise his performances. He wants to do better. Do you think that Heung-min Son will start the Chelsea game next week after today, or do you think Richarlison will get the start again?
I'd say Sonny. I'd go for Sonny starting next week. I think that would be my guess at the moment. It's hard to say. I mean, as Ricky said, I'll tell you what I did like about Sonny today, his attitude. When he was dropped last time, it was he had a bit of the sulky schoolboy in him. That I thought his attitude today was superb. I mean, he looked happy before the game. He looked happy sitting on the bench. There was none of the performance the last time. And he looked happy when he come on. And instead of not celebrating his goal as in to prove a point, he celebrated his goal. It looked like for once that he was he understood that he needed a rest. I think it's been a funny old season for players overall. I don't think we've seen the best of Richarlison either, as Ricky said. I think the World Cup being in the middle of it, I think some of the players have come back from that with a bit of what you can call a World Cup hangover. Lloris is one of them. Everyone was slating Lloris, saying he's finished. I saw him in the World Cup. He didn't put a foot around wrong. You don't become a bad player overnight. And Sonny certainly ain't. Son, we'll see the old Sonny again at some point. But I think that break in the middle, and perhaps how their sort of particular country did. Some players have come back different to others from that. But I thought his attitude today was great. I don't know whether they'll start. I think they probably will start him against Chelsea. If not, I can see him, coming on for as long as he did today, or perhaps even longer next week, Sonny.
Craig, what do you think it is the problem with Heung-min Son and Richarlison? Because Richarlison hasn't scored a Premier League goal for us yet, and we are in February. Of course, we've had the World Cup break. But Heung-min Son has struggled for goals as well so far this season. What do you think it is?
I genuinely don't know, because you can't even blame the system, because we were playing it most of last season when Conte came. So, and he was a Golden Boot winner. So I just don't know. Sometimes players just go through these spells, it's just the little things, just not going your way. The ball might not bounce into your path, and then all of a sudden you haven't scored where before you might have done, and that could be the thing that mentally kicks you on. I've said on him many times, as a striker, the confidence you want to score every game, And if you don't, if you go 3 or 4 games without scoring, that pressure does build, no matter what level you're playing at. And he is only human. So now, hopefully, he's got that goal, and it wasn't a deflected goal. It was a clean hit. It went straight in. He made a good run. He realised, do you know what? I can still do this. Perhaps sometimes that's all you need, that goal. And he got the hat trick, and yes, he got the one against Palace, and we thought that was going to be it. But sometimes these things happen, and players have seasons where they're not scoring as many. Like, look at Salah this year. He's not. He's been banging them in before. He's not having as good a season. But, I mean, I'm sure the Liverpool fans are talking about him like Spurs fans are. But, you just got to stick with these players. Like Kim says, you don't become a bad player overnight. He's still fit. He's still hungry. Watching the games back, he's obviously looking at his performance in detail, as you would expect. And, he'll come good again. And let's hope in this run of games now, this run of fixtures, it's a perfect time to come good, isn't it? And, let's go on a run again, because we've got to get a result against Chelsea. That would be massive if we could beat them next week. That would be absolutely huge. And now it's the time to beat Chelsea, because they've been terrible, but they'll come to our ground. And, you know what every Spurs fan's going to be thinking. They've had a run of bad games. If Potter loses to us, he's liable to get the sack, and then Chelsea turn up and beat us. Everybody's thinking it, and we've got to believe that we can do something against Chelsea.
Let's keep it positive, eh?
I didn't say it's going to happen, but I'm just saying that's what everybody's going to be thinking. I genuinely think we've got
I would have
a massive
expected
chance.
that comment from Kim, not you.
I think we've got a very, very, very good chance of turning Chelsea over next week. I really do. I think they're in disarray, and I think we've got as good a chance as we've ever had to beat them in the league next week. So, and if we can do that, of course, the momentum builds, and then hopefully we'll go into the AC Milan game and get the result against them as well.
Well, I want to ask you all this question. We're currently sat in the top 4, which is an amazing feeling again. Can we stay there? Are you confident that Spurs can finish in the top 4 at the end of the season? Craig, let's start with you.
Yeah, I said that Tuesday, I believe, and I still maintain we can. I think Newcastle will have a bit of a dip. I think you're seeing it now. They haven't been picking up as many points as they were. They got the cup final coming up. I think they will lose that cup final. But, we've just got to keep at it. It's all very well teams around us losing. We've got to just pick up our points and worry about ourselves. I do think if we it's not a massive run, 2-3 wins in a row, and we're up there, and it makes such a big difference. It does. But yeah, in short, I think we will, Chris. I think we'll just sneak in. I think United's a bit of a stretch. You never know, but they seem to be on a bit of a run at the moment. So, I would have said before the World Cup, I thought we could finish above United, but they are looking really good at the moment. But looking at that, I just think we're more than capable of finishing 4th. Let's be honest.
Ricky, same question to you. As you can see now, Spurs are 4th, 42 points from 24 matches. Newcastle are in 5th place, 41 points from 23 games. They have a game in hand over us. How confident are you that Spurs will finish in the top 4?
You know what? I am confident first and foremost. But with Tottenham right now, you just never know what you're going to get from week to week. Like, we went from Man City being our best performance to Leicester being our worst performance, and that was within a week. Do you know what I mean? So you just don't know what you're going to get. But what I have seen is that will to win, that will to fight. That the boys that have come in have taken the responsibility up, and they're going to push for it and they're going to fight for it. And what is a great indication, I think, of the league right now, barring the Gooners and them lot over there. But you look at Man City. Man City have everything going for them. They've got all the players, they've got all the money, and then they decided to buy Haaland this year. And it hasn't gone to plan for them either. Not only have they lost games, but there's been games where Haaland hasn't had a kick, especially against us. So how and why I use that example is because nothing's guaranteed, especially in the Premier League. We've got so many good teams. We've got teams that are fighting for so many different things that nothing is guaranteed. But are we capable of maintaining a top 4 and being in the Champions League again next year? Absolutely. We've done it before. We can do it again. And it's all like Craig said there, as long as we concentrate on ourselves, as long as we don't get complacent with any good performances that we put in, and then just kind of swan into the next game and think that it's just automatically going to happen. We've got to work as hard and we've got to want it as hard as the biggest game that we're going to face. You know, against a smaller side or the biggest side, it's got to be the same attitude. It's got to be the same energy. It's got to be the same fight, control, you know, and patterns of play. It's got to be, you know what I mean, of the same level. And as long as we concentrate on us and play the games and win the games that we can win and keep pushing, of course we can keep top four. Of course we can. Why not? We're in there already. You know, Newcastle have just lost their goalkeeper for the cup final. But, you know, there's things that happen. There's random injuries that happen. Take out a key player and then suddenly it goes a bit skew-whiff. Things happen in the Premiership. Nothing is ever as it seems on the day. It's not going to finish today the way, you know what I mean, at the end of the season. So there's a lot more to play for. There's a lot more games. Newcastle have got to come up against some big teams. So have Man United. And anything is possible, especially with this Spurs side.
When you mentioned Arsenal there, Ricky, you are going to say that Manchester City will still win the Premier League title, aren't you?
Yeah. I mean, of course. I mean, you know, them lot are going to bottle it. Do you know what I mean? And I can't wait until that day. But I don't want to say that. You know, I don't want to say it. I just want to hold it until it's time. You know, until that final whistle of the final game, and they're not top. That's when I'm going to celebrate and kind of rejoice in that bottling. But right now, let them just keep doing what they're doing.
Of course, top four would be amazing, and it would be a miracle, as Antonio Conte said, to finish top four again. I feel that there's a long way to go, lots of ups and downs, and we've had lots of ups and downs so far this season. Kim, how are you feeling about the top four? Because I've got to be honest, I don't know how this is going to go. I feel like there's a lot of teams behind us, Liverpool, Chelsea. I think at some point during this season, they're going to come good. Liverpool are not that far away from us. Newcastle as well. There's a lot of teams in there, trying to fight for that top four spot. Can Spurs do it? Will Spurs do it?
Can Spurs do it? Of course they can. As I said earlier, I think it's been a weird old season, whether that's because we've had the World Cup in the middle, but so many of the big teams just haven't been there or abouts. I mean, you know, you look back, and if that was the season, obviously, that we was going for the Championship, why couldn't someone thought of that season or not be so good? But it didn't happen. You know, obviously there was always someone above us and we were doing the catching in that position. But a question for you, Chris, I'll come back to your question in a minute. Just say, for instance, and, you know, obviously, you know, chances are they won't, but if the Gooners won the league and won the Europa League, what happens to that? Do the runners-up get it, or does it go to fifth place in the league?
Top four is always top four. It will never. Champions League spot will never go to fifth.
It won't go. Not if Arsenal won the league, obviously, and the Europa League.
No.
Right. So it will go to the runners-up of the Europa League.
But we don't even want to think about that, Kim. Let's not even go there.
No, I'm just wondering. I was talking to Gooner on the phone the other day, and you know, I said to him, what would happen if that happened? Like, would it go down to fifth in the Premier League? But no, going back to that, I think next week, I think the Chelsea game is going to be one of our biggest games of the season. I think, you know, I know they've been playing dreadful, but I can just see them coming there and playing like world beaters. They always do. I don't know what it is about us, and we never seem. We really need to match them next week and do better. We've got to be up for that game. I think if we can beat Chelsea next week, I'll truly be confident then of us turning Milan over and getting into the last eight. If we get into the last eight, I mean, the Champions League this season's weird. It's not like anybody looks like they're the out-and-out favourite to win that either. I mean, you go into the last eight, I wouldn't fear Liverpool. I wouldn't fear Chelsea. I wouldn't fear Man City. I mean, you go into that, and it's not like any of the other teams are looking like, wow, their name's on that this season. It's just one of those seasons. But I think next week, a lot depends on next week. You know, we've got to beat Chelsea. We need to go on a bit of a run. We've got to get a few wins. And I think that will bring the confidence back into some of the players that performances have been suffering. I think confidence has been a big a big problem in our squad this season. Like, you know, when Lloris was in the side, for him, for Sonny. I think just getting, him getting that goal today, if we can go out and beat Chelsea, whether he starts or he comes on and plays well, we just need that confidence back in the side, I think. And yes, if we can get that confidence back in and we can sort of, null and avoid the Leicester performances, well, obviously we're not going to go on to win every bloody game. We've got some tough games coming up, especially away. But we've got to go there and put in a performance and, give these teams a game. We've just got to. And that's the only way we're going to finish top 4. But it's certainly doable because, as you said, Newcastle, they draw a lot of games. They've started to falter slightly recently. You can see Liverpool perhaps after yesterday putting a few results together. But I don't think anyone will catch United. I think United are on a real roll now. If anything, United will be challenging for the title with the other two. I think, But so I think it's that 4th spot that is all to play for. But there's no reason it can't be us.
Kim, what do you put it down to? When we beat the champions at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, then the very next week get absolutely hammered at Leicester City, and then win here again today. What do you put that down to? That inconsistency.
I mean, there's no explanation for it. You wonder sometimes when we started off at Leicester, obviously, and we want to go up, I thought, right, that was it. That was the turnaround we need. And then we just fall apart. Obviously, Romero wasn't playing that game, was he? He was out. I think it's a big issue when he seems to be out. I think it's, he's got his plus points and that. He didn't get booked today, did he?
Do you know,
No,
Kim,
he didn't get booked today.
a funny moment. Right at the end of the game, Højbjerg was getting into a bit of an argument with one of the West Ham players, and Romero came in and split it up. I couldn't believe it.
I saw that. I saw him go over and push him away. Yeah, no, I think, listen, we need that spirit, though. We do need that type. That at the end of the game, we needed that. We just need that. We need that next week against Chelsea. Put it that way, We can't be losing to them again, and a draw's no good. We need to beat them. They've lost every game recently. Even Southampton can beat them. We need to believe that in the week, and we need to go out and kick them right up to Jaxie.
Couldn't put it better myself. We'll come on to the Chelsea preview later on in the show. Craig, let's talk about the game itself. Now, we didn't start off that well, and we're all used to this as Spurs fans this season because the first half performances haven't been great. After 55 seconds of the game, West Ham had a great chance. Ball over from the right to Bowen. Edge of the box shot wide. After 3 minutes, they had another chance, cleared for a corner. After 7 minutes, another chance for them. Another crossing, blocked. What is it about these first half performances with Tottenham? Not being ready from the very off. 55 seconds, they had a chance.
Yeah, it was. I couldn't believe it, actually. I was just getting a drink and I heard we kicked off, and then the commentator was going mad. The voice goes up, and I thought, oh my God, have we got ourselves in this position already? And it's just, the slow starts drive me crazy. We've spoke about it on here many times, and I don't know what it is. How can you start games that slow? It's just unbelievable. The one game I do remember, I think it was a good few years ago. It was under Poch, I think. We beat Man City at White Hart Lane. That's how long ago it was, and we beat them 2-0, I think. And that, to this day, is still the best performance I've ever seen from Tottenham. But we started that day massively quickly. We was at it from the first whistle. So that's the sort of Tottenham you want to see, like Liverpool used to do a couple of seasons ago, when they would just hammer you for 20 minutes and almost get the game on the first 20 minutes. Why can't we do that? It drives me insane that we start off so slowly. And the players and managers say they're not doing it deliberately. Conte's not telling them to do it deliberately. But there's something, you'd think something would click, wouldn't you? Because it's frustrating as hell. But if the players don't know why, then that must be frustrating for them as well. But I don't know. Perhaps people in the comments can actually give their views on that, because I genuinely don't know why we start games so slowly. I mean, was it Bowen at that shot, that first shot? That was only inches wide, wasn't it? I mean, that could have been a disastrous start. But yeah, I don't know, Chris. I really don't.
Ricky, Stellini actually said before the game, I think it was to the official Tottenham Hotspur channel TV, He said the first seconds, the first minutes are going to be vital in this game. Now, I just read out there 3 great chances for West Ham in the first 7 minutes. What is it about preparing for these games where we're not on the ball from the very, very off?
Again, it's really tough to answer, Chris, because if we had the answer, I'm sure the coaching staff would have the answer and we'd put it right. But we've also got to look at the the opposition, where they know that we kind of start slow. So now the opposition, their team tactic is first 10 minutes, just go for them. The opposition's tactic is to pressure us and to put her under as much pressure as they can within those first 10 minutes. But if we look at the whole game, now, the first half, like I said at the beginning, for me, it was a bit flat. I wanted a bit more intensity. I wanted a bit more zip in. I wanted a bit more aggression in our play, not in our tackle, but in our play, and kind of going for the game. So for me, the first half was a bit flat. But listen, after those 5-10 minutes, what did West Ham do, really? We controlled everything. I mean, just looking at the stats there, we had the possession, we had the passing. Nobody was really under that much pressure. Do you know what I mean? Nobody really was under that much threat. Like Kimbo said earlier, Forster didn't really have much to do. He had that shot where he had to get down low to the ground quite quick. I think it was a shot from outside the box, and he dealt with that. But what else did West Ham bring? From corners, from free kicks, not a threat. Not once were they a threat. Even when Ben Rama had that free kick right in the second half, in a perfect place to score, or to at least get a shot on target, they just wasn't a threat. So, and I think that's a lot to do with how we controlled the game, how Skippy was. Skippy was at another good game today. Just getting those little tackles and those little flicks in that kind of destroy the direction of the opposition's passes, and kind of get us back onto the ball and then push up quickly. So, bro, I wish I knew why we started slow. It's been a frustration for us for a while. It's not just been this season. It's not just been under Conte. It has been for a while. The only time that I can think of where we didn't start slow was those last period of 10 games, I think, towards the end of last season, where we just went on a run and everybody was gunning for top 4. And every week we just built that momentum. And every time we started a game and every time we went into a game, we went in full of fire and brimstone and knowing, like, wholeheartedly that we were going to win. We look at the 3 games right at the end of the season as a great example. The Gooners, Newcastle, and who was it? Norwich, yeah. So those, so it's not like we can't do it. But, I was saying this on Tuesday after the game, that there's always 2 phases of play. Simply, there's always 2 phases of play. There's the defensive phase and there's the offensive phase. When you've got the ball and you're moving forward, everyone's going to go into different positions to try and create as many options, creative and attacking options as they can. When the ball gets turned over, we then go into a defensive shape. So if the opposition always has the ball, especially in the first halves and especially when we start games, then we're always in a defensive position. The back 3 becomes a back 5. The midfielders drop in. Kane comes back. Do you know what I mean? Everybody kind of condenses into our own half, and then we try to break it up the field. But if we can't get our game going, and every time we try a kind of turn pass, when we try and pass around the corner for Kulusevski or someone else or like a wing back, if we can't get that going, then we're boxed in. So when we do have the ball, at least you can see a little bit more pressing. I mean, today I saw Dyer high, Longley was high, Romero was high up the field, all of them at one stage or another. I saw Dyer mostly on the halfway line, and that's how much control we had. So, all right, cool. We don't start quickly, but we pretty much dominated that game, and West Ham were never a threat.
Yeah, you're right. West Ham only had 1 shot on target. Kim, let's come to you. After 11 minutes, we had our first attempt at goal. It came from Oliver Skipp. It was actually blocked and then went over the bar. Oliver Skipp came in the Champions League game against AC Milan on Tuesday night. Of course, he played again today. What have you made of Oliver Skipp's week so far? Because stepping in for Rodrigo Bentancur, that is big shoes to fill, isn't it?
Yeah, I think he's had a brilliant week, and I'm really pleased for him. I mean, he seems such a lovely lad, Skip. You know, he's Spurs through and through, and I'm just glad for him. He hasn't had a lot of opportunities. Obviously, he had a really good spell when he was at Norwich, I think, on loan, and he came back. I think he was he their player of the year there or something when he, you know, he came back, and obviously we had really high hopes for him. And I think he did I think he did well under Poch there when Poch sort of brought him through and he played. But obviously his chances have been limited. I felt a bit sorry for him, but it was, I think, to bring him in a game, and obviously we didn't have much choice but to bring him and Sarr into that game because of, you know, injuries and suspensions. And as I said to you, I mentioned earlier, I think both lads did us proud in that midfield the other night. I thought they were an absolute credit to themselves. And I think both of them have got a really big future in the game. But I think Skippy did really well today. I did. He sort of, he just played so well. He's what you call a reliable player. You know, he might not do anything that looks utterly outstanding, but he won't let you down either.
Kim, let's stay with you. In the 13th minute, there was a penalty shout for Spurs. Now, for those of you listening to this on an audio platform, I'm actually showing a picture of the West Ham player literally got the ball in his hand. Kim, what did you make of this incident?
Well, I thought it was a penalty. Obviously, I've seen a similar and not even as blatant as that given this season. I thought it was a penalty. But do you know what? When we didn't get it and we weren't playing that well that half, I thought surely it ain't going to be one of them days, you know. But it didn't turn out to be. So really, it's neither here nor there now. But unless something comes down to goal difference and then you'll curse it. But yeah, I mean, it was a pen, wasn't it? Let's be honest. You know what I mean? He sort of batted it away it was, I mean, I suppose people are thinking, would she say that if it was the other end? Really? I wouldn't complain about it if it was the other end because it was so blatant.
Craig, how on earth can that not be given as a handball?
Yeah, I think it's second time in a week that West Ham have got away with one, to be honest with you. They said on the telly that the letter of the law states that if a player is falling and he puts his arm out to cushion his fall, which we all would do, and the ball hits it, it's not a penalty. But he didn't fall over. He stayed on his feet. And the thing for me, above all that, if the ball doesn't hit his arm, it goes through to Kane, who has a clear shot at goal. So how is that not a penalty? It's 100% a nailed-on penalty. And look, we won the game, so it doesn't really matter. But that could have turned the game. That, we would have been in front early if we got the penalty. Kane had put it away. But for me, the VAR is a good thing. I'm still in support of VAR personally, but they have to assess things and look at these decisions because they're getting a lot more wrong than well, probably not getting more wrong than right, but they're getting important decisions wrong. I think everybody can see that as a penalty. And if I agree with Kim, if that was at the other end, I'd have said we got away with one if that happened to us. I don't understand how that is not a penalty. If somebody can explain to me how it is, I don't get this, that the player's putting his arm down because he didn't hit the deck. He stayed on his feet. So it's a penalty. His arm's away from his body. It's a penalty, 100%.
Rick, let's come to you. After 18 minutes, West Ham put another cross in. Souček couldn't quite get a touch. But after 32 minutes, Ben Davies put a cross in from the left-hand side. No one there. No one in the box. We say on this channel, week in, week out, it's about the right wing back and the left wing back putting crosses in. This time we put a cross in, no one there. What did you make of Ben Davies's performance as a left wing back today? And should he play there again? You're on mute, Rick.
Wait, whoa, I'm back. I think Davies gets a bit of unnecessary stick, and I think it's because he's been there for so long. And yes, of course, we can do with upgrades at left centre back or left wing back. Of course, we can have upgrades in there. But he is a proper steady Eddie. He's proper. You can rely on him, and okay, he's not going to be 100% and not make mistakes. And be perfect. But he always puts everything on the line for Tottenham and the shirt. Do you know what I mean? Like when we're in trouble or when we're progressing. And today, to be able to take up that left wing back role, Where again, you know, Perisic hasn't done too, like the crossing ability, the corner ability, and the free kick ability. I love a Perisic, but there's been a couple of games where it's just been too easy to get by him. And today we saw a really kind of solid performance from a wing back, not only defensively but offensively. He did get crosses in. He did make runs. He did create chaos in just by running in an attacking sense in the opposition's half. And you know, for the first goal, I mean, look at that ball by Højbjerg, who saw him. And look at that run by Davies. He ended up getting on it, and you know he ended up finding Emerson Royale, which was like wing back to wing back, and that's the goals that Conte loves. That's what he's been after, you know. So I think he's done really well. First time in that position in a very long time. I'm sure he played there for Wales at one point, but very, you know, I thought he was pretty solid. And now that Sessegnon's out, if we have got to go to an almost like a solid left wing back, then we've got one there in the squad who can come in and play. You know, I wouldn't want to sell Davies because of just the amount of positions that he can cover. And again, he's reliable and he puts everything on the field for the shirt, for the fans, for the win, for the 3 points all the time. Do you know what I mean? Yes, he will have dips in performances. Yes, he won't be the greatest. Yes, he won't score a Roberto Carlos free kick. But he does put everything out there for us. And I would hate to lose him, even as a squad player, just because whoever we bring in as an upgrade, it's never guaranteed that they're going to work. Do you know what I mean? We see that the transfer windows they're gambles. They're gambles. We've seen, we've experienced it ourselves with Ndombele and Lo Celso. We've seen the highlights. We've seen how great they can be for the clubs that they were playing for, respectively. But once they got a cockerel on their shirt and they was playing in lily white, they didn't do it. So it's always a risk. So even if we do end up getting Bastoni or Gvardiol or, you know, or Udogie comes in and he's nailed on left wing back, I would still love Davies in the side for what he does bring. And he never gets his head down. There was many a times that he's been out of the side. You know, before Conte came in, he was out of the side. We all wanted him gone. But Conte came back in and recognised what he brought to the table and stuck him in there at left centre-back. You know? So, yeah, I think Davies gets a lot of unnecessary stick. But I think he's solid. I think he's reliable. I think, like I said, he gives everything for the shirt. And regardless of what happens next season, I want him part of the squad. Do you know what I mean?
Well, after 36 minutes, Tottenham Hotspur had their first shot on target through Pierre-Emile Højbjerg. And in that build-up, all the Spurs fans around me were singing, shoot. No matter what player had the ball, they were just saying shoot because we wanted to see some chances created. In stoppage time, Richarlison had a shot at goal. The goalkeeper saved it. Richarlison, in fairness, it was from an acute angle. Also in stoppage time, Romero header from a corner just over the bar. Half time it was 0-0. Kim, this might be a very difficult question because I don't think even I can answer it myself. When was the last time you were entertained in the first 45 minutes of a Spurs game?
Too long ago, I can't remember. And that is the God's honest truth. I just can't say. It's been we've been such a tough watch this season, let's be honest. You know, I mean, no one can, as I was going to touch on earlier, I mean, is it because we haven't got the particular players Conte wants to play his system? There's the questions over, should he change his system? But he seems reluctant to do that. I don't know why we're starting off games the way we are, but what I do know is, you know, listen, I'm not going to complain. We're sitting in top four. We're in the last, you know, we're still in the FA Cup. We're in the last, you know, hopefully, you know, we've touched wood. We've got a decent chance of getting to the last eight of the Champions League. But the football for me has been drab this season, you know, absolutely drab to watch. As I think it was Ricky said, the last time I can remember being entertained by Spurs was the back end of last season. Those last 7 or 8 games when we were gunning for the top 4. And, you know, we got there. I think they were the last entertaining games. But, you know, really, if I have to go back, you know, and really say when I was entertained, You know, it was the Potts days. That last season at White Hart Lane for me.
I knew his name would come up.
Football I ever saw Spurs play, and I've been going over there since 1979-80. That last season at the Lane where we was unbeaten, we were a joy. Obviously, we had Walker, Rose at their prime. We was a bloody joy to watch, you know, and that's what we need to. You know, we've got a great stadium there. Obviously, in time, we need to make that place a fortress like we did then, but you've got to have the right players to do that. Just going off the question, I just want to comment on something Ricky said. I think he's spot on about Ben Davies. And I think another player that I want to see stay there that I think gets a lot of flack, but I think he's such good cover. You know, he plays with heart. He doesn't let you down. Yeah, he makes the odd blip, but who don't? But I want him there next season. Not perhaps as a starter, but for cover for injuries, suspensions on the bench, is Eric Dyer. I think he's another one that can play in a lot of positions. He's very versatile. And him and Ben Davies, I'd love to see him stay there next season. Not as in like, you know, we do need to freshen things up. We need to bring another centre-half in. We do need to freshen things. There's no two ways about that. But I'd much rather have the likes of Dyer and Davis on that bench if someone's got a long-term injury or you're in an important game and, like, you know, someone gets crocked early, or because they will come on and very rarely will they let you down. And Ricky, I hope he scores that. I'll not laugh if he gets Roberto Carlos to go against Chelsea next week. I should
Come on.
I'll see you in the future.
Come on.
Go on, Ben.
Come on.
Kim's in a good mood tonight.
I am, Chris.
Love it. Craig, let's come to you. In the 48th minute, a move involving Kane, Kulusevski and Richarlison resulted in Richarlison getting in a shot, but it was a tame shot straight at the goalkeeper. A minute later, Kulusevski to Kane. Kane fired wide. What do you make of Harry Kane's performance today?
I thought he was a bit subdued in the first half. I thought there was a few passes that bounced off him, which he's normally control. But he showed what he can do in the second half. Came alive, like the whole team in the second half came alive. Played the ball through to Sonny, set up a few chances. Really good centre forward play a lot of times. Just winning us a few free kicks like he always does. You know, he stands there and just waits to get battered and will take the free kick. Not his best game by any stretch, but I thought he played pretty well in the second half, and he had a big hand obviously in the goal for Son. So yeah, I'll take that. Well, I will say what I did notice. I'm not condoning this, but I noticed there was a lot of elastic bands in the goal mouth in front of the south stand, and I suddenly realised what they were from. It was probably when they set up that tifo, they were all elastic band onto the chairs. And I would imagine, I might be wrong here, that the Spurs fans were flicking them at Fabianski in goal. I don't know. But if you look back on the game, second half, there was tons of elastic bands all over the penalty area. So, that's what I think they were from. But I thought, what is that on the pitch? The groundsman's going to go mad if he mows them. So yeah, coming back to Harry Kane, not so good first half, but a good second half.
Rick, let's come to you. Let's talk about the goal. Tottenham Hotspur, of course, went 1-0 up after 56 minutes. And as you mentioned earlier, a great assist from Ben Davies, finished off by Emerson Royale. I tell you what, the crowd went absolutely mental because I think a lot of people actually expected Emerson to miss. And, you know, to see the delight on his face, to see the delight on all of his teammates' faces, you can see Ben Davies there, to see the delight amongst the supporters, you know, the flack that this guy's had, an incredible moment for him.
Incredible moment, and a moment that's deserved. A deserved moment. He's put in some fantastic shifts over the last couple of games. So for him to get that goal, especially, you know, we've just brought in Pedro Porro, who's supposed to be the attacking right wing back. He's supposed to be the one that's going to get the crosses in and the goals and the assists in. So for Emerson to get it, and especially after all the flack that he has got, I love that instead of he could have really gone into his shell. He could have sulked about it. He could have done an Ndombele and being like, I just want to get out of here. But he didn't do that. He really did knuckle down and work hard and earn the right to be a starter in that Tottenham side the last couple of weeks. So, you know what I mean? More power to him. Well done to you, man. Fantastic goal. But for me, it was that Højbjerg. It was the first pass from Højbjerg from deep from in midfield that found Davies. That was just it sent electricity up my spine, bro. I was just like, oh, go on, Davies. And then Davies just gave the little touch into the path of Royale, and he had acres of space. And I was so happy that he buried it. But, like I was saying this to Craig, I think it was the other day, but I would love to know a comparison between Højbjerg and Declan Rice, and maybe a couple of others of the top 6-y kind of DM stroke centre midfielders, because I think he has, Højbjerg, he's had a couple of games that have been off, but he's added assists and he's added goals to his game. And he's always the Viking warrior. He's always up for the fight, and he's very clever. He's very clever at getting little nicks and going down and stopping the play and getting everyone back into position and then get back up. And do you know what I mean? He's a very clever player. And that assist for Davies to then assist Royale was a dynamite pass. What a pass! And I know you was asking Craig about Harry Kane there, but I really think that he had a bit of a captain's performance. Yes, it was quiet in sense of shots and goals, but he was everywhere. I saw him in defence at one point. I saw him at left back at one point. I saw him at centre midfield. I saw him give a pass to Emerson and then bomb up the field to kind of get the return and be there again. So he did have a really kind of. It was a tough performance because the West Ham defense, they were keeping a bright eye on Harry, but the way that he controlled things or bought free kicks like Craig said, or just managed to get passes round the corner to Kulusevski or to Davies or try and get out to Richarlison, I thought he was fantastic today. Yes, he didn't score. Yes, he didn't have too many shots, and yes, we would have loved him to have scored against West Ham and kind of increased the goal tally. But I thought he was almost like it was a really kind of tough, tenacious performance today. And yes, it grew in the second half, definitely. But I think he wears that captain's armband with pride, and he goes out there, with a bit more of a mission on his head. He's always the man, but I think he had a bit more of a mission on his head. And if he's got to drag the team up and get them going, then he's going to do it. And I think he was everywhere tonight. Like I say, in our box, helping to defend from left to right back to midfield to up front. Get in, Harry. But yes, to go back to Emerson Royale, it was a perfect present for the hard work that he's put in, and to not let that flack bring him down, but to kind of motivate him to go, all right, and cool, I do have to up my performances. He wasn't getting criticised just for criticised sake. A couple of those boos were because Conte wouldn't drop him. He wouldn't play Spence. And a lot of us were booing, or the crowd, from what I heard and from what I saw, they were booing Emerson Royale coming on because we all wanted Spence to come on. Do you know what I mean? Or Spence to be given a chance. So he has had a lot of flack, but I love his work ethic and the fact that he just got his nut down and was like, all right, cool, I'm going to show you. That's a sign of a really good player.
What you're trying to say, Rick, is £1 million well spent.
Yeah, maybe. I did say I hope he kept his receipts after we found out about that, but maybe it is. Maybe it is. I mean, look, again, early days. What is it, 3-4 games? Early days, we've seen it improve performances. Long may it continue and long may it grow, and if and when we need Porro, hopefully the fact that Emerson Royale has had a tough time and come through and smashed it, pushes on Pedro as well to be like, oh, well, I've got to up my game. And when I come in, I've really got to take the shackles by the horn sort of thing. Do you know what I mean? I've really got to hit the straps and kind of show people what I'm about. That's what competition for places are all about. And that's why you need good quality good quality people battling for those positions in the first 11.
Kim, in the 58th minute, Forster made a save from Bowen. I think that was the only shot on target from West Ham in the game. A minute later, Kulusevski had a shot from 20 yards. What have you made of Dejan Kulusevski's season so far and performance today?
I'm a big fan of his for a start. I think, he's been a fantastic sign for us. I think he's a great young player. Seems a great fellow in himself. I've seen a few little videos and clips of him. Seems like he's got a really strong sense of humour. His last 3 or 4 performances, I think he's been a little bit off the ball for me. He's just not looked like the Kulu we've known to grow and love. So I don't know what that is. Listen, you know, every player goes for a little spell. I'm sure he only needs a goal or two or a couple of assists. So yeah, he's just not looked the last 3 or 4 games for me. He's looked a bit off the boil, what I'd say, you know. Yeah, and like just reiterating what Ricky said about Emerson, you know, he seems such a likeable young lad. That an awful lot of flack to take, you know. I mean, I know none of us were particularly horrible, but I think it was more the fact he couldn't cross the ball. We're desperate for sort of someone in that you know, that area to be able, you know, the way Conte plays, you know, it was just so frustrating in getting these decent positions. And then he couldn't cross the ball, or, you know, he hit the first man. But, you know, listen, I know what it was like at the start of my career with the books. I don't look at reviews anymore. I haven't done for years, but obviously I'm a lot older now. But I remember in the early days, I'd look at book reviews, and if they weren't good, like, I'd like, you know, it ruined my day in a way, or I'd wake up in the morning and it set me off on a, you know, it must be tough for him. I mean, for a young man, and he looks like a good head. He looks like a lot, you know, everyone said how hard working he is. He looks like a likeable lad. You know, you don't see him really, you know, acting up, falling out nightclubs or whatever. And I'm just really pleased with him. I think he must have strong shoulders, and this experience will only, you know, next season probably, you know, I should imagine Pedro Porro will be the starter, you know. But I think probably we made a mistake not starting Pedro Porro at home with a more settled defence when we did play him. But that's played out in Emerson's favour, you know, because he's made that little position his own now, and good for him, because it's not been easy for him.
Well, Roy Wright's on the screen now. All I can say is happy Heung-min Son Day. Let's talk about Heung-min Son's goal, because, of course, in the 67th minute, Richarlison went off and Heung-min Son came on, and it took him just 5 minutes before he got on the score sheet. Of course, Harry Kane providing the assist for him. Craig, let's come to you on this one. Cool, calm and collected Heung-min Son.
Yeah, it was like you'd never been away sort of thing with that confidence. It was funny because the commentator on the game, as soon as Kane picked it up and released the pass and saw Son running through, I think he said words to the effect of "Here we go." The shades of Fabrizio Romano, but it was like you just knew he was going to score. I was so confident as soon as he picked that ball up and he was in that space and he got it out in front of him. I knew he was going to score. So pleased for him. Obviously pleased that, you know, doubled our lead, but so pleased for him because to see that smile back on his face. And I think Kim was right what she said. He did sulk a little bit when he was dropped before. You didn't see that today. He was just he was like, okay, fair enough. I deserve this. I know what I've got to do. He was just fantastic. And just coming back to Emerson, I know I have given him stick on the show. I wouldn't say I apologise, because I think every bit of criticism was justified in the whole. What I'm saying is, I think he's been absolutely magnificent the last few games he's played. And as Rick said, I support Tottenham Hotspur. I support the players. I don't want to see players have a crap game. I want to see them play really well every week. And you know, we're on here to give a view of the game of players. And at the time, Emerson's played some crap games. I think if you look back, we've probably between us all said most of the players have had bad games. It's just Emerson had a bad run, but now he's picking it up. Now he's playing really well. He's the confidence. You can see the confidence in the guy. He exudes confidence. The no-look passes. That, you know, he's up and down. He is a fantastic athlete, and it was £1 million well spent. I'm not sure I would have spent £1 million when I was playing to make myself a better player, but you know, £1 million to him is probably the same as what 10 quid is to me. So, you know, fair play to him, fair play to the guy, and I really hope that him and Porro can interchange. I hope it gets to a point. I'm more worried about Porro now than I am Emerson, to be honest with you. You know, he'll need to pick a game where he can either bring Porro on, or he's confident what he's seen in training that Porro will get us a bit of confidence in that game. You know, because we need Porro up to speed and fast. But Emerson's first choice at the moment. You can't deny it.
You know, Craig, we've had more comments about you with Emerson Royale than Ricky getting locked in Watford. And that is saying something. That really is. Rick, let's come to you. Do you want to add anything more about Heung-min Son's goal? And, you know, he's the delight on his face when he scored, you know, because he mustn't have liked getting dropped or rotated, no matter what you want to call it. He would have been so happy getting that goal today.
Bro, again, a bit of a weight off his shoulders, and we all love Sonny. We all love him. We don't. Again, another player we don't want to criticize. We don't want to say drop him. I don't want it. But if he's off form, then it's only right that, especially when you've got a squad, to use it, you know, and to use those other players, especially if you're not in form. And what I like about the deserved Sonny goal today was, again, like Kimbo said, he took it on his shoulders. He wasn't sulking about it. He didn't have a woe is me kind of face on him. He was like, all right, let me show you. And he came on, and within 5 minutes, he showed us all. So I'm so happy for Sonny. We know what a different side we are when Sonny's on fire, when Kane's on fire, when Kulu's on fire. All right? We know we're a different side. So more power to him. I really hope that he can get more of these type of performances and be the dangerous Sonny that we all know and love. Do you know what I mean? So again, like, he's had a couple of times where he's, like Craig was saying, he scored the hat trick and he scored a couple goals here and there, and we've all gone, all right, cool, Sonny's back now, Sonny's back. But it's the first time he's been dropped in a while, or rested or rotated, and there's a £60 million player who's desperate for his position. So I think with that, the fact that he's come on, determined, you know, ready to change the game again, and done it and got that goal and an assist from Harry, which is, again, part of the normality that we all like to see. Fantastic. And even the way that he struck the ball, he didn't snatch at it. He was very calm. He was very composed. He slotted it in exactly how we all, like an informed Sonny would. And that was good to see. Do you know what I mean? He didn't snap at his chance. He actually just put it away like the good old Sonny we know and love. Do you know what I mean? So I'm so happy for him. I'm so happy for the team right now. Let's keep it going, please, boys. And if he got a goal or two or a hat-trick against Chelsea, my gosh, would Sonny be back? That would definitely be back then.
Well, Stellini made a number of subs towards the end of the game. 77 minutes, Perisic coming on, Lenglet going off, and then a minute from time, Sarr and Moura coming on, Skip and Kulusevski going off. Kim, I want to come to you first on this. I want to talk a little bit about Antonio Conte. Of course, he's still in Italy. It is being reported that he will be back for the AC Milan game. Do you think Conte will be back? Because there's a lot of Spurs fans believing at the moment that Conte will not return.
Yeah, no, I think he'll be back. He's not going to... Well, once his health's up to scratch, why wouldn't he be back? I mean, listen, I like Antonio Conte. I think he did marvellous to get us into fourth place last season. We're not particularly playing the football that Spurs fans want to see. But just the fact what he did for us last season got us in fourth. I mean, listen, if we could go on and have a good run in the Champions League, FA Cup, I mean, touch wood. I mean, yeah, who knows? He's won something everywhere he goes. I can't particularly see him doing this season, but wouldn't it be good if some of the big teams are out the FA Cup? Who knows? Do you know what I mean? But I do think it will, but there's no way Levy's going to mug him off by sacking him. Not someone like Antonio Conte. You just don't do that. I can't see it, not for an unexplained reason. If people are saying, oh, we've still got the season to salvage, I've seen a lot of Spurs fans saying, listen, the style of, I think it will be a happy parting of ways, if I'm honest, with a lot of respect for Antonio at the same time. But I think Spurs fans do like a certain style of football. And, I'd be very surprised if it wasn't Poch that did come back. I'm not saying it's going to have an happy ending. I love Pochettino. In all the years I've been going, and I did what, when I first started supporting Spurs, we had Keith Birkinshaw in charge. I started supporting them in the season that we was in the second division. And obviously Birkinshaw, I think, took us down and brought us up. And so I go back to those days. But, Birkinshaw, the general, is a great manager for me. He won the Cups, but Pochettino's my favourite ever manager. There's no two ways about it. And And but it all depends if he's backed. I mean, all you can hope is if he does come back as a Levy learning his lesson, by not refreshing that squad when he should have done. I mean, Poch made mistakes as well. You can't deny it. I mean, just going back just slightly, I was thinking when Ricky was talking about Sonny, no player should not be droppable, they play for Tottenham Hotspur. If they're not firing on all cylinders, they're injured or not perhaps match fit, or whether they want to play or not, it's neither here and there. And that was why it was so good to see Sonny take that like a man today rather than like a sulky child. But, I mean, I'm sure one of Poch's biggest mistakes, he'll admit it himself now, Harry wasn't match fit. He should never have started in the Champions League final. Mora, just for all his, heroics over in Ajax, he should have started that game. Even if he was brought off in the 50th minute, and then Harry would have had the last half hour. And I'm sure if Poch could play that game again, no player should be an absolute certain starter, especially if they've not been in the side, whatever, even Harry Kane. But I just think in total, I don't know. I mean, I like Conte, and I think he'll be remembered. Listen, the fact we beat the last season, it didn't look like I was going to get top four. We did get top four, and I think he'll be remembered fondly. But his style of football is not going to be remembered fondly. Not really, and I think it will be, he's made noises. He wants to go back to Italy. I feel sorry for him because obviously he's lost his close friend, his right-hand man. And it seemed like, that was such a tragedy for the players as well. He was a very popular guy, but the looks of it was sad. He's lost a couple of other friends. I think his wife and daughter are still over in Italy. I can understand at his age, he wants to get home, whether he wants a break from football or to manage out there. And I wish him really well. He seems a nice guy for the future. But I think, it's probably at the end of the season, whatever. It'd be great if he goes out with a trophy. Wouldn't it be great? But even if he did win a trophy like the FA Cup, I wouldn't want to see this style of football next season again, personally.
Kim, just a very quick answer from you. Who will be the Spurs manager on the 1st of August?
Pochettino.
I agree. I think that Conte will be here until the end of the season, and I completely agree with you. I think Pochettino will come back. Craig, same question for you on Conte.
Do you know what? I echo everything that Kim said. I know it's going to be a short answer, but I think he'll be here. I think he will come back. Firstly, I don't subscribe to these theories that he's just going to stay in Italy and that's going to be it. I think he will come back. I think he'll be with us till the end of the season now, and I think Poch will be our manager on 1st of August to lead us next season. And I think that will probably be one of the only things that will persuade Harry Kane to stay. I don't think Kane's making. You haven't heard much. I think we will keep Harry Kane. I think we'll keep him regardless. I think he's kind of missed the boat, sadly for him. Unless United come in with a ridiculous offer, but then it's kind of up to him whether he wants to go to United and move to Manchester, which I'm not convinced he perhaps would with his young family. I don't know. Sometimes just being a one club man, when he looks up at that stadium and sees, he speaks to Ledley King, this is my club, my one and only club. And I come back to it, what I've said on here before, and people will disagree with me. But when you think of Alan Shearer, what do you think? What's the first thing you think of when somebody mentions Alan Shearer? For me, it's Premiership all-time top scorer. Not that Alan Shearer Premiership winner, although Alan Shearer obviously did win the Premiership. That's the only thing he won in his career. But whether he'd say this in public, if you said to Shearer, give me 5 more Premier League titles, but take away all my goals, I'm not sure he would. So Harry Kane's a goal machine. He wants to score goals. Of course, he wants to win. But somebody said on here before, winning trophies isn't everything. Of course, we all want it, and of course, he will want it. But I think being settled, being a club legend, being a one-club man, there's a lot to be said for that as well. But coming back to the original question, I think Pochettino will be our manager on 1st of August. And Chris, I've got to drop off now, unfortunately. But thanks for having me on again. And I'll give you my prediction for Chelsea. Firstly, I would imagine Raheem Sterling will probably play for Darren Altman. I think Raheem Sterling plays for Chelsea now. I'm going to say 2-1 Tottenham for Chelsea, Chris. But I'm really sorry I've got to drop off now. So thanks for having me on again.
Craig, thanks so much. See you soon.
Cheers. Thanks, Rick. Cheers, Kim.
Take it
Cheers,
easy.
mate. See you soon, Craig.
Bye.
Just talking about Darren Altman, a very happy belated birthday to Darren. He turned
Happy
50 on
birthday,
Friday.
Happy birthday, Dal.
Ricky, we will wrap this up soon, by the way. Ricky, doesn't it seem a little bit disrespectful towards Antonio Conte, the comments that we've seen online about him, the job that he's done at Spurs?
Yeah, but like Conte has also left gaps for those that want to create controversy in the silence. I don't know if that makes any sense, but the fact that he hasn't signed a deal, the fact that there have been these comments after, once we restarted the Premiership, after the World Cup, there were like certain comments in the press conference where I just felt a bit bitty about it. And then he had the press conference in Italy, and we know he's been in hospital for this gallbladder, and he came back too quick, and it hasn't healed up as quick as everybody wanted it to. It's a little bit more serious than everybody thought. But in between those AC Milan press conferences, he was speaking about his love for Italy. He was speaking about Italy being his first home, and he will be back at some point. He spoke about the intensity between Italian football and English football, and how Italian football is like going to war every week, and almost like if you support a side in a Premiership, it's almost as if you can go and just enjoy watching the game rather than fighting to the death to kind of win that game. So you saw his affections for Italy, and that's bound to happen. But even when we were speaking about Conte at the beginning and he signed for us, I said, don't fall in love with him. You know what I mean? Don't fall in love with him, because he could win the league with us and then decide to leave after that. Do you know what I mean? He's done it before. So whether he had a year contract or a 5-year contract, he's going to leave when he feels it's right to leave. And it does seem that he is kind of fluttering his eyelashes back at Italy. But, like Kimbo said there, everything that she said, he's lost friends. He's a deep, emotional, passionate man. He's missing his family as well. He's of an age where there's sometimes you just want to go home. But it's only in amongst the silence that people have speculated and kind of made up their own stories and said that he's not coming back or tried to disrespect him in a certain way. He could obviously stop that by signing a deal and say that he's committed to Tottenham, or within his press conferences, really kind of show that he's about winning stuff for us and for this club. And maybe if he was a little bit more convincing that the speculators might not have anywhere to go. But look, the reality is that he hasn't signed a new deal. The reality is that, yes, there's a 1-year trigger option, but if he don't want it and the club don't want it, then what's the point in signing? You know what I mean? I do really think that over the World Cup, they must have had that time and space, the club and Conte, to sit down and talk, and something wasn't right after that. Because pre-World Cup, I would have said that he's staying for another couple of seasons. I would have said that he's looking to build a project. All right, we can't buy 18 players at once, a bit like Chelsea did, but we're doing it 2-3 players at a time, 2-3 players. So it looked like he was building. If we're talking about Bastoni, is Bastoni going to come to us in the summer if Conte ain't there? And we've all been on and after Bastoni for a long while. Udogie, he's coming in to play left wing back, so I thought he was really building something, but there has been certain comments and bits and pieces that have come out after the World Cup where it has made me feel a bit uneasy. Now, I know he does this to kind of hold the club to account and to almost like make sure that he gets what you've promised him, whether that be players or a new medical team or whatever the case may be. But I think this time around it is a bit, it's tough. It's tough. So I think love him while he's here, but just don't fall in love with him. Love him while he's here, while he's got a cockle on his chest. And he's shown passion. He's shown how much he wants to be here. You saw it at the end of the Fulham game. You saw that the fact that he came back after an operation 2 days later because he wanted to be there. From Stellini, they're having 3 phone calls a day. And he, from what we hear, Conte's like, I want to come back. I'm sorry. I want to come back. 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 So he wants to be back. You know what I mean? And a bit like Harry Kane, while Conte's wearing the shirt, let's back him and give him as much support as we need to. Let's be the 12th, 13th, 14th man, in the stadium, home or away. And let's push this, hopefully, this
Ricky,
side to something great.
Ricky, would you want him to be here next season? If you had the choice, would you want him to be here next season?
It's really tough, Kim, because I think you made a great point about the style of football. It is tough to watch. But I did jump on the Conte train, which was we're going to win now, and that means players for now. That means training for now. That means that type of dogged spirit to kind of go and get it right now. And we'll see if that happens at the end of the season. We'll see. Like you said, there's FA Cup, there's Champions League, there's top 4 to play for. There's a lot to play for.
Just say, for instance, he won the FA Cup with this style of football. Would you rather him not just bow out as winning a trophy, or would you want him there next season?
It's tough because we haven't won for so long. So if we won something playing this system under him, part of me would want to continue that growth. But part of me, like everybody said, it's like the style of football and watching Tottenham, it's a tough watch most weeks. And I'm a Poch lover as well. I loved what Poch done for the side, and even when we didn't win, I always felt that we could, whether it be a last minute or I don't care who big the team was, whether it was Real Madrid or Juventus or Bayern Munich. I always felt that with Poch we could win with the style of play and the players that we had there. And they wasn't £100 million players; they were 4 million Dele Alli. Do you know what I mean? 4 or 5 million Dele Alli who we turned into a world beater. And he got the best out of the side, So that was, like you, Kim, that was my most exciting time. That was my most favourite time to watch Tottenham. And if that happens, then I'm not going to be upset about it. But if we went on with Conte to start actually winning stuff, part of me would feel like, are we missing a trick? Because has he even started yet? Is this the beginning of something great, that we're then letting him go, or he's going to swan off back to Italy and we almost jutter and stutter again. So it's a tough question to answer because I jumped on the
ideal scenario would be him winning the FA Cup, be remembered fondly, and then Poch come back and win us something more.
I wouldn't complain, Kimbo. I would not complain
with our style of football.
With our style of football, with a proper Tottenham side. Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't complain about that at all.
I love that idea. Kim, of course, the next game, Chelsea at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium next weekend. Give me a score prediction. How do you think this is going to go?
Well, now I've spoken to Ricky earlier. I think Ben Davies is going to score an absolute screamer. And I shall remind him of it forevermore.
Yes,
volley.
You do.
I'll go for a Ben Davies volley for a start. And I've got to say a Spurs win. I mean, let's just hope we turn up for once. We don't want to do what we did today because we're Chelsea's players. If we give them 3 chances in the first 11, 12 minutes, we'll probably be a goal or 2 down, even though they haven't been playing well, because you know what they're like when they're playing us. So I'm going to go for 3-2 Spurs with a Ben Davies screamer as one of them.
What are you going to go for? Because they've spent a lot of money. These players haven't gelled. They haven't clicked yet. They're sitting mid-table. They're in 10th spot. For the money that they've spent in 10th, and they're struggling to score goals at the moment. How do you feel this is going to go?
I'm going to echo Kimbo first and foremost. I'm going to echo what she just said there about Davies and 3-1 as well. But look, we know as well what Craig was saying earlier, that we've all got that in the back of our heads that, all right, cool, Chelsea have gone on a poor run, but of course, turning up to Tottenham, they're going to turn into world beaters again. But they're not the same Chelsea. They've bought so many players. There's a lot of players that don't have that Chelsea-Tottenham mentality and that kind of that hatred for us and when they play us and that expectation to win against us, because they've basically changed their whole side. So there is that, right? So they don't have that thing in their head that when you come to Tottenham, you pick up 3 points. So there is that. But again, what we said earlier, it's all about us now. Forget what Chelsea, what form they're in, and forget what players they've got, and forget how much they've spent. It's about the 90 minutes next week, right? So it's all about us and how we approach the game and how we go out and get what's rightfully ours. Do you know what I mean? So I'm with Kimbo. I see a Tottenham win and I see a 3-1. And do you know what? I would love it for Davies to score. I would love it. A bit like Keegan. I would love it if he scored a screamer. And I would love to be wrong as well and he scored a screamer as well.
It'd be nice. I'll tell you what, we're in the top 4, as I've mentioned a couple of times this evening. It's about staying in the top 4 and getting Champions League football for whoever is in charge next season. Kim, it's been an absolute pleasure having you back. I think you've got a very good record on this channel, actually. Every time that you're on, we seem to pick points up. So please come back again.
Will do. Thanks for having me again, Chris.
Well, it's been a pleasure having you here. Thank you so much. And Ricky, where can people find you and what are you up to at the moment?
Oh, mate, you know where you can find me, probably on this channel at some point. And what else am I doing? You know, you can find me on Twitter at Ricky J Norwood, on Insta, official Ricky Norwood. And right now, bro, there's just a lot of madness happening. House bits and pieces. You know, me and the missus, we're preparing to move house. So there's a lot going on, my friend. So yeah, that's what we're doing. We're concentrating on boxes and gaffer tape right now. So yeah, a lot's going on, bro. A lot's going on.
Well, good luck with that, and thanks so much for coming back, Rick. Kim, I should have said, any new books to look out for?
Yeah, I'm just I'm delivering my the sequel to The Family Man next month. It's called The Boys. I'm having 2 books out next year. I thought they'd bring it out autumn, this one, but they're not. They've decided to bring the 2 out next year, so they're going to do a big campaign. Casey is back because I've had a little break, which is nice. And yeah, I'll be on tour a couple of times next year, up and down the country. So I'm having, I think it's coming out 28th of February, The Boys. And then the 3rd in the trilogy, which that will be coming out sort of in autumn next year. So I'm going to have a really busy one next year. So no, all good. So all good, my end. Thank you.
Well, the very best with that. Ricky, Kimberly, and of course, Craig, who left us early. Thank you so much for your time this evening. Thank you so much to everybody who watched this stream and listened to this on an audio platform. I will see you next week when hopefully we have beaten Chelsea and remain in the top 4. Until then, come on, you Spurs.
Come on!